It's a brand new day.
I was on my balcony last night, and I felt this presence come through, and it was so strong that I had like a physical reaction.
Really?
Like my face went numb.
Really?
And like I was trying to like stay cool, but it like came through really strongly.
You know, this is my worst
it got
nightmare.
worse.
Is this house haunted? Because I'm never staying
It got
if it is.
worse. I'm not even kidding.
Okay, tell me.
So I'm in the living room after this event happens, and I hear the sheets in my bedroom like ruffling, like moving.
Oh my God, I don't even know why I'm smiling because it's terrifying.
I'm thinking, okay, Pearl, you know, in the bed or whatever, like playing around. I look to my right, I'm like, oh no, there's Pearl, fast asleep.
Honestly,
it was really...
I would get, I don't know how I'd react to that, but I never...
It was just
that's
unnerving.
My worst thing.
I was just like, okay, it's fine that you're there, but like, go. Like, I don't need you to like roll around in my bed.
Right, yeah, get out of my bed.
Fight Factory.
Yeah, fight. It says karate on the door, so I imagine it's going to be a karate kid.
We will see.
Ah.
All right, I'll see you.
Enjoy, don't get beaten up.
I'll try not to.
Use your guns.
Hey,
how you doing, Tyler?
Great to meet you.
Good to meet you. I'm Chuck Liddell.
Oh, great to meet you, Chuck.
Come on in.
Thank you for
Check it out.
having me.
My name is Chuck Liddell. I'm known as the Iceman in the MMA community. A former UFC light heavyweight world champion. Probably one of the most well-known fighters in that industry from my time. So we helped build the sport, and I'm very proud of that.
Well, thank you again for having me today. I'm excited to be here.
Well, yeah, thanks for having me. I was called the Iceman because I didn't get nervous before fights. I'm not the most emotional guy, but I am. I've got a tender side of me. And then for this, a guy talking to someone that died or passed on, you know, is pretty crazy to me. I've always been a little skeptical, and so I'm here to see if he can change my mind and make me a believer.
Have you ever had a reading before?
No, never.
Awesome. Okay, then I'll just explain kind of the way that I do it.
Heidi, my wife, is watching backstage, and very important to have her. She's my better half.
Basically, in a reading, my goal is to make a connection with someone who's passed away and communicate messages that validate that they're at peace, that they've continued on, and that they're around us. So we'll see what pops in, and we'll see where we go. Okay. Yeah, who is this? So weird. I have this person coming through. What would this be? I feel like I have to talk about this older guy that's is having me connect, and he's coming across in the way that a father figure would, but it's not your dad. And the feeling is like, this is not biological dad, but this man that's coming through and having me make a connection is coming across in the way that like a dad would. Check and see. He's having me talk about this instance where he was trying to tear out a tree, and the feeling is like, you cannot tear out a tree or rip out a tree. The feeling is like, for him, he's like, oh, I'll manage it, I'll do it. I'll take this tree stump or trunk, out of this ground and, remove it. But the feeling is like, no, this is gonna require a team of people, a whole group of men to do this. And he's like, no, I got it. And the feeling is like he might have had been stopped from actually doing this. The feeling is like, take it easy, take it easy. And the feeling that this comes across is being like a patriarch. The feeling is basically coming in and stepping in and taking either the roles of like what a father figure could do or would do, and the feeling is being there.
Definitely makes sense. Yeah, my grandfather took over the father role when my father left, and he fixed everything. He tried to do everything. And the funny thing with the story about he wasn't as old when he did the tree, but he was trying to remove the tree. I mean, I don't want to know if I can explain how big that tree. It was the tree stump.
Yes,
that
huge.
He chopped down. I'm like, Pop, we can't take that out, please. Yes. I'll work as long as you want, Pop. It's good. We're not going to do it. So, we got someone to take it out for us. And I don't know how he would have got all the information that he got. Well, the tree stump story, I mean, he would have had to get, he just got lucky, maybe? I don't know. He took us in when I was 8, I think. I think I was 8-year-old. We moved in with him, and continued to be basically be my father for the remainder of his life. And he's one of those guys, he always believed in you, always expected you to do what you were capable of doing, and he's a real stickler for that kind of thing. And he was a very influential person in my life, and and helped me out a lot. I get pretty emotional talking about my grandfather. I think he's the guy that, between him and my mom, I give them credit for me being who I am. My grandfather was just he was a great man, great father to us. Did an awesome job. I mean, I couldn't thank him more.
He's having me talk about a joke about not taking ADHD seriously. There's a situation where a male child, is put in school, and the suggestion is like, oh, this child has ADD, ADHD, and the feeling is like, no, I don't know if I believe in the either the ADHD.
That for me is kind of funny. I don't know that I've ever. I mean, I think I've told my wife that story. I don't think I've told anybody else. I'm within. I mean, but that was me.
Makes sense.
They were talking about me. My grandfather, he's fine. Just keep, challenge him.
Yeah.
He'll be fine. That was a story from my past that I've told a few people, but I was thinking, I'm trying to think, where would you have gotten that from? But, I just don't know how he would have put all those things together.
And it comes across, it's like he has your back in this way, and that's important. He's having me emphasize, I have your back. And it's really important that you know that, because he always will. And when he comes through, he really wanted to be your protector. I mean, truly. He's so proud of the way you're able to protect your kids, because he feels like he wanted to protect you as best he could. In more than one way, you've honored him with your life. Having your kids, having your career, your work ethic, all of those things are parts of him, truly, because he instilled them.
Like, my biggest regret was he never got to see me.
Right.
He never got to see me fight, but, obviously I became world champion in UFC, and that was like my biggest regret was he never saw it. So.
When he comes through, he acknowledges all the things that you've been able to implement in your life that were due to him, the lessons that he taught you early on, that when he came through, he viewed as being like the lessons a father would teach a son. And now, in being where you're at in your career, and far surpassing any expectation or dream, he acknowledges that now the greatest accomplishment you could have ever done is raising kids. For him, you know the man that he is, and it's raising your kids that truly makes him the proudest in being a father for them. How long ago did he pass away?
Well, quite a while. What, 20 years now?
Wow.
And all these years, I still have a hard time talking about him.
I understand. It's a lot.
I tell people the story about my grandfather. He always took care of me, always had my back. He was, he always wanted to do anything for you. I wasn't ready for him to go, but it was, for at least for a moment, it was nice to feel I talked to him. I have to believe he's got either the best researchers in the world working for him, or there's something to it. So I gotta say it's and I think it's so ingrained in me to be skeptic and not believe in it, but. It's hard not to after some of the stuff you went through and some of the stuff you talked about. So
good.
That's pretty crazy.
Awesome. This has been so interesting for me. I mean, thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been kind of crazy.
Awesome. Yeah.
That's
it's a lot to process.
Yeah, it was very interesting listening to what he was saying because things kept popping up. I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, wait, that makes okay. Wait a minute. That okay. I think that the one thing I take away from today is a challenge in my head to get over my skepticism and believe in what he's saying and what he does and try to figure it out, So it's kind of a strange thing for me because I'm a pretty big skeptic as far as stuff goes, and I always think there's an explanation behind things. You can figure it out, But maybe that explanation is he really can do what he says he does.
So how was it? What did you think?
That was awesome. It was crazy. With some of that stuff, I don't know. Like I say, I keep trying to rationalize it to myself, and I don't know if some of that stuff I might not even told you. I don't know.
Well, that's good. Then it was a success.
Skeptical mind.
Right.
It's interesting.
Perfect. All right, see you in a bit. Bye.
Hello, I'm tired.
Tyler.
Rhonda.
Great to meet you,
Nice to meet you.
Rhonda.
Come on in.
Thank you for having me.
My name is Ronda Rousey, and Tyler might recognize me as being the first women's UFC champion.
This is a pretty cool location.
It is. It's real special to me. We are at the Redwood Bar and Grill. This is an authentic pirate bar. I got offered a job at this bar at the 2008 Olympics. When I was first working here, I was moving away from being an Olympic athlete and on to the unknown. And I'm now moving on to the unknown again, and I would appreciate some guidance.
Sometimes objects will actually help, I think, kind of bring in a person or make a connection. So, do you have any objects?
Yes, I
cool.
do.
All right, so we can just put it right here, and we'll see what we do. Cool. Okay, so I'm just gonna take a minute, scribble, get in the zone. We'll see if anything pops in. There's a man that comes through real heavily, and he's just kind of showing me basically my symbol for getting to live like closer to middle age, but not really reaching my elderly age. They are for some reason having me talk about, like on Dad's side, there's this individual who would have really been heavily involved in like fishing, and this keeps coming in as like making fishing trips, doing the fishing, it's coming in. Would anyone connected on Dad's side of family have any connections to this object? Perfect. There was this reference to a lot of emotional instability. Sometimes if people end their lives or take their own life, obviously that can sometimes kind of contribute, but they're having me kind of talk about this feeling of like, I was unwell before I passed. It just feels really, like, tragic is kind of the way I would describe it. So, they're having me talk about the intending to go to a car. So, I have to figure out what this is, but there's a whole situation where someone, it's tricky. So this isn't like car accident thing, it's not that. But they're talking about a vehicle, but putting this around someone's like last moments, one's life. It feels weird. Does that mean anything?
Yeah, oh, my dad, he had broke his back, and he happened to have a really rare blood disorder that kept him from healing, similar to hemophilia. It doesn't allow you to clot your blood. And so he was slowly, for years, getting platelet transfusions and they put rods in his back, everything. And eventually they said, you're gonna be a paraplegic and then a quadriplegic, and then you're gonna die. And there's nothing we can do about it. And so my dad decided to take matters in his own hands because he was in a huge amount of pain every day. He couldn't work anymore. He felt like he was just a drag on the family. And he was very much like a person who takes care of everyone. And he drove his car out and he put a hose in the exhaust.
I'm sorry.
I was 8 years old. I remember that when he passed, I would just try to just tell myself that he was on a business trip and he'd be back. And that was my way to cope with it. Sorry, I don't want to get into it too much. But I wouldn't be crying unless he was awesome. He was the best.
I'm so sorry they had to experience that.
He was a really tough guy, though. Like, I never knew. Like, the whole time he was sick, he never let us know.
Right.
We didn't know he was dying. He kept it a secret until the end.
Yeah, it's hard. I'm sure he didn't want to be a burden. And...
Yeah. Well, he said he didn't want our last memories of him to be in a bed with tubes running in and out of him. So, you know, I've never resented anything.
It's a very incredibly difficult point to be in life, but he comes across completely, like there's a lightness in the way that this feels.
I just wish I knew him as a man and not just as my dad, you know? Like, now that I've got older, I have like the pleasure and the honor of being able to know my mom as a woman. And I wish I could have had that with my dad. But, you know, that's what I have, and I'm happy for what I got. I got to have 8 years of amazing.
What a cool object.
It was a jury box for my dad, yeah.
Wow.
And so that was the lid of it.
Wow.
But yeah, the whole box didn't survive, but the lid did. I mean, we don't have very many things left from my dad, but I remember my dad getting this box. And when he passed, I would always keep like my most valuable little knickknacks, you know. And of course, if you're an 8-year-old kid, your most valuable knickknacks is like a rock that you thought looked cool. I just bring up memories of him all the time so I don't forget them, because I don't want them to fade.
I'm gonna keep going with this. Your dad's having me talk about the timing of his death, and then for some reason your dad's having me talk about you as a younger person. And there's this emphasis on learning, and it's like this death happens, and the feeling is like still having to kind of get past this. They're trying to give me a message, and I can't make it change. Earlier, there was the fishing reference for some reason. I don't know why they're putting emphasis on this. Did that mean anything in context?
Like you said about, you know, passing at an inopportune time, I was overcoming a speech problem. I had a difficult birth. I had the umbilical cord around my neck and had like delayed speech development. I didn't really start talking until I was 6. And to get me to talk, the therapist said, make me go do stuff, but come do things. So my dad would take me fishing. And then one of the stories my mom likes telling me is that it was raining cats and dogs outside. And I was like in the living room, like fishing pool, everything. And they're like, Ronnie, what are you doing? And the only words that I could say were, I'm going fishing. And like, yeah, that was something we would do all the time. Yeah, it was a pretty bad time. I ended up homeschooling for a while after that because I really couldn't deal with it very well. All those changes at that time.
I think, you know, when they come through, they bring those things up to just wanting their loved ones to know that they're aware of it. And there's this feeling of like, an overruling feeling of like you being able to still like grin and bear it and get through and toughen up and move forward despite dealing with these really like tragic, sad situations. But there's such an awareness of, oh my God, look, I realize now what she was having to deal with, what she was having to handle and all of the responsibilities. And there's a feeling of an apology with that, so just please know that.
When I was younger, they thought I had autism. I was only walking on my tiptoes. I wasn't speaking. Like, everybody was really worried. And my dad would always be like, oh, no, don't worry about it. She's a sleeper. She'll show everybody. And I'd gone from not speaking to being, like, the star of our school play. I was actually really smart, and I just couldn't talk. And I'd become, like, really active in doing sports and stuff like that because that was a thing that me and my dad did. And so when he passed, I did judo with the intention of winning the Olympics in it because he told me I could.
Well, I've had a great time here at this bar, but I'm curious to know what you do for a living.
I was an Olympic medalist in judo, and then I became the first women's UFC champion.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Not how I expected to start my day. Well, it's wonderful to meet you.
Thank you, I appreciate that. This is great. I'm so impressed.
Oh, good.
I'm a believer.
That's the goal. That makes me so happy.
Are you sure you don't want to drink after all that?
You know, after all that, I might.
It's good to feel like understood because there's a lot of things I had to endure and experience that nobody will ever see all of it at once. People see little pieces of it. So it's nice to feel like someone understands from like the full big picture. Like I feel like only he could. This is Bailey's and Coca-Cola.
I feel inebriated just looking at it. I take a sip and see. It says Coca-Cola and Bailey's. Yeah, look at that. All right.
It's a training meals drink for people who don't drink often.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like
It's still the same.
it's like a little burning of the throat. Mm-hmm. So I'm like,
That's the alcohol part.
getting turned off my Coca-Cola drink. Actually, not bad. I like it.
We used to watch MMA on the screen right here, and my boss would be like, you could totally do that. I'm like, really? You think so? You think I could do that? All those conversations happened right here.
Right.
He made a believer out of me today, and I definitely feel better off for the experience.